Let's look ahead to week 13. Let's talk about a few different plays here. Maybe our favorite play, a fade, a fishy line, and maybe some MVP discussion. Mike, I'm going to start with you with maybe it's early in the week, right? What's the early pick for week 13?
I like the Dolphins here, Sia. I've talked about it a lot across a lot of different programming. I just think this team is not properly priced still. We've watched this offense over the last few weeks, just been in absolute control of games, and they've really played pretty well defensively as well. So when I look at this matchup here, I get that it's an outdoor game on the road in the cold, but I think this offense is still drastically undervalued, and I don't think at 3.5, I don't think these teams are essentially 6 points different on a neutral field. And that's kind of where we're looking at right now, considering the way this game is priced. So when I look at Miami, I think this game should be a 2 at most, a +2. Very different number at 3.5. I know that we just watched Green Bay beat San Francisco. That was not the San Francisco 49ers. That was one of the worst teams in the NFL in that circumstance. So when I look at this particular matchup, I think that the Dolphins are still undervalued here because I think we're talking about a competitive game back and forth. As you just look at that game that Green Bay played with Chicago recently as well, I think we could see something very, very similar here that ultimately could be a Dolphins win. So give me the 3.5. I don't think this thing's going to be 3.5 by the time the game kicks off.
Yeah, I wonder if the Tua narrative in the cold is going to inflate this by 0.5 point. We'll have to wait and see how the market reacts to that. I'm going to go to the Cowboys. A bit of a rush to judgment, pun intended. Maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment here, but I was not only impressed with the Cowboys against Washington, but I was moderately impressed with them against the Texans. Even though they ended up getting blown out after halftime adjustments by CJ Stroud and company, they really hung with them for a half, and I thought that game could have gone a different direction with a couple of plays going their way. The Giants, I'm not going to say they've mailed it in, but I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. I trust Cooper Rush a lot better. Cowboys defense getting healthier. I just think we're going to see a very motivated Cowboys team at home on Thanksgiving. I'll lay the 4 points. All right, Larry, a lot of people wanted to fade perhaps the best team in football last week, and they got a rude awakening because the Detroit Lions are that good. There's a reason they're an incredibly short favorite to win the Super Bowl. Is that where you're headed?
Yeah, they haven't given up a touchdown in 2 weeks now. I tried to get in front of that Lions train in Indianapolis, and it did not work, although the Colts squandered opportunities in the first half. And now Caleb Williams, who's been actually very, very good at home with 9 touchdowns and 1 pick and a passer rating near 100, and just as bad on the road, averaging under 6 yards per attempt, more picks than touchdowns. He's going to a Lions team that no matter who they lose, they seem to come up big with Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader and Zadarius Smith and Brian Branch. So this defense is still playing at an elite level, and we know there's no stopping the Lions offense the way that they're clicking right now. So even with the big number, I think the Lions will remember what happened to them last year on Thanksgiving and atone for it with a big win.
Yeah, I do have to give credit to Caleb. I've been kind of knocking him all year, but pretty impressive the last couple of games, how he's rebounded under pressure. All right, biggest fade of the week. We're all on the same page here. We'll probably rip through this one reasonably quickly. Interesting to hear that Aaron Rodgers potentially wants to play for a different team next year. Mike, I don't know who that team could possibly be. I don't know who wants Rodgers at this point to make some sort of, Super Bowl run. But either way, your biggest fade of the week is the Jets, correct?
Yeah, it's got to be the Jets here, especially with Seattle winning against Arizona. Seattle's got brand new life considering what's happened in that NFC West division. And we've seen a Seattle team that is going to just drop back and throw the football essentially every play. And I've not been impressed with this Jets defense. I know that we've got a lot of big names out there, but this is the spot to me where the way that Seattle plays, it's going to force the Jets and Aaron Rodgers to essentially score on most of the times that they possess the football. And that just simply has not been the case for this team so far. So considering the circumstances and what everyone is playing for, I think this game means a lot to Seattle. And I think Seattle defensively can put enough pressure on Aaron Rodgers that Geno Smith can do enough. So I am fading the Jets big time here in this one.
Totally agree. And I'm impressed with what Mike McDonald's done with the defense, Larry, over the last couple of games. They are also your best fade or biggest fade of the week?
Yeah, Seattle used the bye to revamp their defense, and Mike McDonald, look what they've done to the Cardinals and the 49ers in back-to-back weeks, and they got a lot healthier, and the Jets used their bye to fire their GM and try to get their quarterback to get some MRIs, but he's refusing to do so because he wants to keep playing and he wants to, set himself up for next year. So with the Jets in total disarray and this line as low as it is, I love Seattle as well.
All right, let's go to the fishiest line of week 13. I'll kick us off here. I think the Vikings -4. I'm impressed with what the Vikings have done. I think the Vikings -4 against Arizona is a little fishy. We just saw what happened to Arizona. They got completely dismantled by Seattle. I thought they put up a lot more points. I thought that offense was going to be good, but I do think it's an okay thing that they get to play indoors here in Minnesota. So I think that's going to help them. I think 4 is too many. So I kind of like the +4 on the other side of the favorite here. I'm going to take Arizona. Mike, what's your fishiest line of week 13?
I'm going to go Rams -2 against the Saints. I'm really expecting this thing to be at least a field goal here. I know the Rams just got crushed by the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the Eagles are right there with the Lions, best team in the NFC. Yeah. And it's because of their ability to run the football and those skill position players that they have. The Saints, while they do have Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill, they are nowhere near what the Philadelphia Eagles are able to do. And the Rams, they still got both receivers. They've got a good back in Kyron Williams, and they get to play in a dome. Like, this is very easy conditions, familiar conditions here. They're definitely the better team. Still way more to play for in this season. I think this line should be at least a field goal. So to me, it's very, very interesting that we're not even at 2.5 here. -2 on the Rams, definitely the fishiest line to me.
Interesting. All right, Larry Hartstein, you're going to my Commanders for your fishiest line of the week.
Yeah, how can they be laying so many points to anyone right now? The offense looks a little broken. Look at the total yards they put up. Look great on Sunday, but remember, 86 came on a late heave to Terry McLaurin that should never have happened. And you've got the Tennessee Titans playing good football. Probably should have covered against the Vikings, got unlucky, got unfair penalties called against them, and then they go into Houston and do what they do. And Will Levis playing better football. He always will throw the pick six, but aside from that, playing some better football. So I just don't think the Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury's slumping offense should not be laying this many.
I was surprised by this line, too. As a Commanders fan, I try to be as objective as possible. I don't know why this line is what it is. I honestly think it should be closer to 4, Larry. So certainly some value here, potentially on Tennessee. Very fishy line. All right, we got a couple minutes left in this segment. Mike, let's talk about the NFL MVP. I mean, I think this is an award that typically goes to quarterbacks, right? But it's hard to ignore one Saquon Barkley, who is now, this line's moving. I mean, it was +650, I think, a couple hours ago. It's +500 now to win the MVP. Any merit in considering that number, Saquon Barkley, for NFL MVP?
I will say no, but I do think that he's obviously had a phenomenal season. And if a running back were to get it, I think it could be him. But you look at this graphic we have up here. All those things, yes, it's been a long time since we've seen a game like that. The issue for me is just it's such a quarterback award, particularly when you still have the award of Offensive Player of the Year, which he is -300 to win now at this point. I think he's going to get that specific award for sure. But what Josh Allen is doing, if you remember against Kansas City, 4th and 2 turns into a rushing touchdown. That was the MVP moment. As long as they don't go lose 3 games the rest of the season, I think that award is literally wrapped up because of the consequences of beating Patrick Mahomes in that particular spot. So I am not going to bet on it. I think Saquon is phenomenal and deserving. It's Josh Allen's time.
Yeah, Larry, maybe if Jalen had given him some touchdowns earlier in the year where he just kind of ran it in from the 1-yard line. I agree with Mike. I do think it's Josh Allen's award. How about you?
Well, it's been since 2012 that we had a running back win the award. I think there is a shot. He's on pace for 2150, which would be an NFL record, and he gets the volume with this Eagles team. They just keep handing it to him no matter the game script. And look at the schedule that the Eagles face. He's going to get a ton of work down the stretch. This award always goes to a QB on a team that wins about 12 games and is a number 1 or number 2 seed. So that's why I think Lamar, even though he deserves it, is not going to get it because of the record. And then Josh Allen, if he were to stumble a couple of times, I think that opens the door for Saquon. Jared Goff also could be considered, but he has so much more around him. Saquon is the missing piece in Philadelphia.
no question he's the missing piece in Philadelphia. I mean, he has been so good. Imagine what the Giants would be with Saquon. They'd have at least, 4 wins, maybe 5.